We are live here. Okay. Working. Everything seems to be working, I guess. There we go. Okay, so yeah. Hi, everyone. Good to be back. I want to thank everybody. You guys did an awesome job. Thank you so much for, for taking over while I'm taking care of my family stuff here and be feeling a little bit better. So thanks so much for your help in this period of time. And so you guys, World Series, any talk? Do we have any talk about the World Series or anything like that?
We did talk about it the other day, although the only thing I'll say from yesterday's game is when you have all of these home runs in extra innings, it's crazy. It was a good atmosphere. 1-1 split, though, is good for the Astros because they I think they've got a little better starting pitching. So we'll see what happens when they go back to Houston now, but I think they're in the driver's seat still.
See, I think the Dodgers, the depth of their rotation is better than the Astros, and the Astros bullpen basically did what I thought they were going to do yesterday, which was blow leads. They had that game, they blew it. Giles' 100-mile-an-hour fastball that's straight as a stream of milk. So, the Dodgers came back. So I think Darvish is going in Game 3. I think the Dodgers have the advantage.
We'll see. I don't know why they didn't go with Darvish in Game 2, though. That was interesting to me. So
yeah, I'm surprised too. I don't know. Maybe in the sort of bandbox ballpark. He's pitched in Houston before since he was a member of the Rangers. So maybe it was more comfortable. Or his career numbers in there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started here, and because we don't know how long before Mike is inducted by the police and backstage at the Roger Waters concert tour. What I always like to say here is that's what it looks like. So right there.
Another brick in the wall.
Yes, another brick in the wall. There you go. All right. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, October 26th, 2017.
I'm I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And right now, according to ESPN, the number one team in the NHL, power ranking-wise, are the biggest Golden Knights.
This is why power rankings are what they are.
Worthless. Absolutely worthless.
It's pretty crazy.
They are. They're absolutely worthless, power rankings. Who cares? But yeah, I mean, it's good to talk about. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, that, and also I think it's a reflection on ESPN because if you're clueless enough to think that the 7-1 Vegas Golden Knights are the best team in the NHL by reflecting number one in the power rankings, you're nuts.
I will say this though, we for this week's show on XM, we had Scott Luce on from the Vegas Golden Knights, and when you're talking about their prospect pool, obviously it's deep, right? And so that's really the focus. If you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, are those guys? It shouldn't be as much at the NHL level, but early on, it's fun right now.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and it's and I mean, I have played a bunch of games at home, of course, and I part of me does wonder, here as we go along here, I think to myself, I never thought it was really possible that maybe it is distracting for hockey players to go to Vegas and play.
That is being talked about, and I think there's probably going to be some rules in place with teams now that they probably are going to start talking about that. And look, and they're getting some interesting fans. I mean, Bryce Harper's a local guy, and he's a great baseball player, and he showed up at a game the other day. So it's it's fun. For a year they've got Vegas to themselves, and then next year they'll have to share the Raiders. But for now, they're a pretty big story.
Yeah, and I think football's a once-a-week thing, and I think it'll be good for them. I mean, football always will take precedence, but it is an interesting story, and made all the more interesting now today by the word that young Shipaya, is
he's not so young.
He's not so young, but he was hard.
He's young compared to Eck. That's what it is.
Hey, let's throw that out there. All right, but we'll say, that he has actually now been his agent has been, and I talked about this a long time ago. I said there was more to this than just the sending down, that they had attitude issues and stuff like that. That's obviously coming to light now. But then, Montreal comes out yesterday, which is really fascinating. Montreal never comes out and says anything like this, and will come out and say that they're not interested in him, which was like, they were very interested in him earlier this year, and they were very interested in him before he signed with Vegas. So,
Well,
this is what happens, Zach, when something goes wrong for a first-time player, especially a Russian, in an organization, and a guy gets branded a little bit, teams then get very nervous.
Well, okay, Vegas paid a $2 million signing bonus to Shipachev. His cap hits $4.5 million this year and next year. They played that little game earlier in the year where it was sort of he had a contract that could go down to the minors, so they didn't want to lose anybody on waivers. But when they finally do play him and he scores in his first game, he plays 3 games and they've already branded him as soft and he cannot play in the NHL. I mean, something doesn't smell right here. But the thing is, that spreads throughout the league in terms of that reputation, and now there's talk of him maybe going back to SKA, back to St. Petersburg, back to Russia.
Their record right now is 25-0-2.
Oh, I know, but
St. Petersburg. So I don't think they need him very much right now.
No, I mean they're not missing him.
You're right. I mean the word is out, right? So that is out there now that he could possibly go back there. There are teams that are still talking about it, and I, called around to a lot of people yesterday and earlier today, to try to find out. And one of the teams I thought might be interested was the Rangers. I thought the Rangers would make some sense because the Rangers have tended to bring in. This is a player that they have brought in before. If I'm not I remember this guy. I remember them making was it Zhirdev or somebody that they brought in that was reminds me.
Zhirdev was a big, he was a big swing and a miss for them. He was good for a very short time.
Right, but he was in a similar situation, right? Because they came out of Columbus, where he was a highly drafted player, and
I don't think they would do it now because they've got issues, and you can't really bring in an iffy player like this with issues. Now, if this were a guy that had been proven in some way in the NHL, they would definitely give him a second chance. Yeah. He's unproven. He's a 30-year-old. He could be Yuri Dupita. That's what we're looking at now.
Right, and this is the thing that's the factor is that it's 2 years. If he had a 1-year contract, Vegas could eat half of it.
It's $4.5 million. It's not it's 2 years of $4.5 million is not an untradeable contract.
No, but when you're not sure if the guy's an NHLer or not, or you're afraid that he's got attitude problems, it is. It's an albatross.
It's $4.5 million, right? Because the $2 million's already been paid, right? So you're looking at.
But the cap hits 4.5. It doesn't matter that the signing bonus is paid.
Obviously an issue, but if you're a team lower team, you can imagine. Well, Buffalo is another team I heard mentioned with them. Starting to get
let's say this. I think that there's a possibility, and it's a crude way to refer to it is this, but this is the reality. There's a possibility of a crap for crap deal, of a bad contract that one team, say Matt Molson is a guy that the Sabres, and Matt Molson has clearly passed it. He's got 2 more years at $5 million.
Right.
Maybe he can do something in Vegas. We know Shipachev can't. A big hit for a big hit, that's a possibility. But them getting a draft pick or a prospect for him, there's no way.
There's no way they're giving up a prospect. They would give up a player. A team would give up a player they've given up on. But again, the problem is there are very few teams that really want to bury this kind of contract in case it doesn't work out. And that's why I don't think he's going to get traded.
Now, his agent is Sakura, right? So he's I think
is it Peter Svoboda?
Is Svoboda or Sakura? Or Svoboda, right? I think it's Svoboda, right? Sorry, Peter Svoboda, right?
Yep.
Yep. And he swears that this kid is not a bad kid. There's a lot of people who are saying that something. There really is a double head. It's not it doesn't feel like a Radulov situation so much as definitely something's going on. What that is, no one's really saying. More of this culture clash. It feels like.
Well, all I know is that following the timeline of Bob McKenzie yesterday was fascinating because all this stuff came out, and then he sent something out about if Shipachev they sent him, we're going to send him down to Chicago, and if he didn't report that he would be suspended. Now remember, he got sent down. It was supposedly a paper trail, but I guess they wanted him to report. They wanted him to report to Chicago. His wife was in Vegas. And she was there by herself, so he didn't want to leave his wife, I guess, Right. So, for all the things that have gone on good with Vegas, this has sort of been really ham-handedly handled. And I don't know how way out of it other than maybe they can get some KHL team to take them on, and then they wash their hands of it. But right now, that would be the best case scenario for them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the Islanders are another team I heard, and
I would highly doubt the Islanders take a risk like this.
Yeah, it would be risky. I mean, the one thing I will say is I remember with Zherdov, okay? I remember the one thing that was interesting when Zherdov was traded to the Rangers, or when the Rangers picked him. I'm not sure if it was a trade or they just
I think they traded for him.
A lot was made of the Russian population of Brooklyn.
Right.
I remember this was like a big thing. Like, oh, a lot of Russians, like, and if you've got a wife, like, the situation's going on, you want to get them around other Russian wives. And there's a huge Russian population in Brooklyn that everybody thought that Zherdov would be comfortable. Like he would. That was the Rangers' reasoning at the time. I remember this. They said they would get him in,
right,
bring him in.
We heard
it worked out like you said, but
we heard the same. We heard
Brooklyn too.
We heard the same thing when the Islanders signed Grabovski and Kuhlman. That Russian factor, and it really didn't. Actually, that was, I think, it's proved to be an unmitigated disaster with the Islanders because Grabovski got a concussion and Kuhlman's basically been 10 to 15 goal scorer at best.
But just think about this. Just think about this for a minute. And I went back and looked because I knew Zherdov had one decent season for the Rangers, and he only played the 1 year. He had 23 goals, 58 points. Then he goes to the K. Then he goes back to the Flyers where he has 16 goals, only 6 assists, but 16 goals. And yet, then that was it for him. And so that's pretty much the path that these guys go because teams know that they could play to some degree, but if there's all these other issues, they don't want to deal with it.
Right. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. The only other thing I've heard about, the only other meeting I mentioned, it's not in my blog, but I heard this afterwards, was the team that I was in, which is Ottawa. Ottawa has had issues with forwards. They're facing injury issues right now.
But they don't have the money.
They don't have the money probably to put together it. But yeah, I mean, they would have to move a contract. It would have to be something where they move some.
Yeah, I don't think they would do it because Ottawa just sent like Logan Brown down and Shabbat, and these guys were actually playing fairly well, but they want them to develop, and so I don't think they could afford to get rid of anybody on their roster, and I don't think they want to.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up with you guys, because I haven't been on for a while, but I've been watching, obviously watching all the hockey and watching more hockey than ever while I've been taking care of my son and just in different situations. So, it occurs to me as I'm watching the Chicago Blackhawks lose a couple nights ago to Vegas. It occurs to me that the Western Conference is terrible. It just as I'm looking at it, I'm like,
well, not fully because Anaheim looks really good.
Anaheim looks good, right? But I mean, okay, so Anaheim has they didn't look great. They're looking good now. They look very good, obviously. Over the while here, but they're still gaining. I mean, what is their record at this point? I'm trying to find their record again. Their record is still they're 4-3-1, right? So they're
remember Vatanen's out and Kessler's out, and they're 4-3-1.
And St. Louis has a ton of injuries too, and Steen's back now. So there's certain players that are coming back. But Chicago, I always think of like them as being the class. And then as the year started off, I thought of them as being the class again because they came out with such a dominating effort, against the Penguins and all that stuff. And the Kings in there at 7-1, and I don't think the Kings are all that good, So
I'll argue that point because I saw them firsthand on Monday, and this is without Jeff Carter. And first of all, Quick is 100%. He's playing really well. Dustin Brown playing with Kopitar and Alex Iafallo. That's their number one line. So they're sort of spreading out their offense, and that's a really effective line. And now they have Kempa playing center on the third line. They're really solid. Their defense is really mobile and really effective. And then the next night, after they lost 3-2 to the Leafs, they beat Ottawa in Ottawa with Darcy Kemper in goal. So I think LA, I don't know if they're back, but I think they're effective. I think they're very effective.
Listen, if Dustin Brown continues like this all year, sure, okay. But do you really expect that? You really expect?
He could. If he's gotten into this kind of shape, I was remarking, you weren't at the Anaheim game, but Getzlaff has trimmed down to that point when he came back against the Flyers. He didn't look like he missed any time at all.
Yeah, no, I was impressed. I watched that game and I wasn't. Yeah, it was just. You're right. He looked way
so
great.
it's possible that Dustin Brown has done the same thing.
And I think
I'm shocked. I'm shocked he's done what he's done so far. I mean, I didn't think it was possible. He looked quick.
Anybody could have had Dustin Brown at any point over the last 3 years for anything. You know,
well, if you don't want to pay the contract,
take the contract. All you do is take the contract, and he was yours. You know, really.
Yes.
I mean, that was the reality of Dustin Brown, right? But when I look at who's in the playoffs in the two different conferences, okay, I go through. Okay, obviously there are some crazy things still going on. New Jersey's still 6-2, which is New Jersey's New Jersey's so fast they're going to be there all year. I don't know if they feel like it feels like if this was the Kentucky Derby, New Jersey is that horse that's running out to the start. You know?
Yeah. I think they'll be there till February, March for sure.
Right, they're going to fade away. Columbus looks phenomenal when I watch them play. They really look as good as they've looked. Pittsburgh is not looking great and still is playing really well at 6-3-1. To me, they're playing at like half capacity of what they can do, which is typical of them in the beginning.
All they need to do is make the playoffs. That's the thing.
Right. They kind of know that, so you sort of get the reality that Pittsburgh is not really – they haven't stepped it up. But then Tampa and Toronto are maybe the two best teams in the NHL. And looking over the other side. And then beyond that, you still have teams that are – like Ottawa has been phenomenal. Washington's not even in the playoff race yet. They will be, obviously. So they're a really good team. But I just look through this and I'm like, okay,
I'll tell you what I'm noticing. I am noticing this as I see more and more games. I don't want to say teams aren't playing at full speed or full strength, but clearly there are some teams that know they can make the playoffs, and they're right now they're experimenting. Like obviously the Flyers experimented way too much against Anaheim.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of experimenting going on right now. There's a lot of, hey, let's look at the youngsters right now. And I think because of that, some teams are dropping some games that they wouldn't right now, but they're not going to in a month.
Yeah. No, and I think that's totally true. And it's a great point. I think there are some things definitely playoffs. I mean, we're going to get to the Rangers in a second for sure because I want to talk about them because this to me is like as close to a must-win game that the Rangers have ever had in October in a long time. Like tonight they come in. I mean, tonight they face off against the Arizona Coyotes, right? Where the
winless Coyotes
with Derek Stepan, and this would be a very like devastating loss if they were to lose this game.
Now, we talked about this yesterday, Ek, and you weren't here for it, but I don't know if you saw Jeremy Roenick's comments about Arizona. I thought they were really unfair and nasty, actually.
Yeah, I do. I completely do. I completely agree with you. And I think that goalie there is getting an unfair rap. A lot of stuff that's happening there too. I mean, in general, there was a lot of stuff that I was really kind of disappointed with. But I think the Rangers, as I wasn't high on the Rangers at the beginning of the year, but I definitely think they're better than this, and I think that they will rebound here. I don't think that, and I think the fact of the matter, when you listen to Rangers fans right now, the whole thing of of Lundqvist is over is so ridiculous to me.
It is ridiculous. Now, listen, Mark Spector came out with a good stat. He showed that since like 2016-17, Lundqvist's save percentage is about 20th in the league. And so he's definitely dropped, and I'm willing to admit that he's not a top 10 goalie because he's not.
But you see, this is it. I'm gonna throw this out. Mark Spector, who I love, is a great guy, friend of the show and everything. That wonderful man. I've talked to him many occasions. But this is a stat from a guy in the Western Conference who doesn't watch Lundqvist play.
No, I get it, and that's why I'm tempering it.
But if you play when you play against Lundqvist and you watch Lundqvist play all the time, you realize that the magic of Lundqvist is not necessarily the save percentage and the goals against average. The magic of Lundqvist is his ability to make great saves at great times, and he has.
So what you're saying is he's the Swedish Grant Fuhr.
He is. He wins. He wins games for the Rangers all the time, and so you can say he's not he's the 20th or whatever. That's ridiculous because of the fact that he's won so many more games than almost every other goalie you put out there.
He said the most important thing the other day, and I don't think people paid enough attention to it. He's actually pretty honest about how he plays, and he talked about how he reads ahead and sort of guesses where the shots are going to go, and he has been really good at that. The problem is when you do that, you are definitely leaving yourself to the mercy of the defense to make sure that they clear out the puck if you make that great save. And he'll make that great save. Nobody's clearing out the puck now. That's the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem. Totally agree with that. So as the night Rangers, that's just a huge game. And I
think it's a big game for Arizona too. If Rick Tocchet comes into Philly winless on Monday, he's going to face a massive amount of media for that.
You may not ever have a game where you have. I mean, if you want to talk about game where coaches are on the line tonight, you're looking at the Rangers. The Rangers, Arizona coaches nightmare game. Every coach in that game.
Well, I don't know whether anybody's going to be fired this early in the season, but 0-8-1. I mean, John Chaika's got to be questioning the decision that he made to hire Tocchet, because there is talent there. There is a defensive base there. I mean,
Tocchet has Tocchet is one of the nicest guys. I love Tocchet. He's a really good guy.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do with being a nice guy.
This is not a new thing for him. I mean, he was a disaster in Tampa as a coach.
That's what I thought. Remember, I told you I didn't like the signing.
Yeah, I mean, as a head coach there, I mean, he is an awesome assistant coach. That's what he is. Just at the end of the day, as good of an assistant coach in the NHL, I'll take him any day of the week. But it's a totally different dynamic.
I mean, Mike and I talked about it. The only thing I said he did in Tampa was let Stamkos be Stamkos. That was about it.
Yeah, that was the difference, right? And that was it. I mean, that's just
which
crazy.
Put him one level ahead of Barry Melrose.
Yeah. I want to talk about the rumor that I wrote about today about Galchenyuk. Two teams that I heard talking to Montreal about Galchenyuk. And
first, can we just address? And I'm not going to address the truthfulness or whether it's a lie or the truth, because we don't know. But Mario Tremblay coming out, former Hab player, former Hab coach, now a member of the media in Montreal, comes out and says that Galchenyuk was in rehab twice. First of all, what a scumbucket! I'm sorry, that has no basis whatsoever of even being talked about. It really does.
Even if it's true, Russ, we've known players who've gone into this in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a reason they keep their names out of the press for something like this.
And the media never talks about it. Like the media, the media knows that there have been players who were very close to, the team that we've seen go through this before. And I'm shocked it doesn't happen more often, and it probably happens more often than we know, because
it's called having a little compassion and giving a guy a second or even a third chance. I mean, I get that it's a hard thing. I mean, if you're going through this, it's a hard thing. Tremblay, what he did was awful.
It is. It's inexcusable, and especially, in Montreal right now, it's like people. I know I've talked to people up there, and it's crazy the clickbait stuff going on with this team right now, and the idea that you're just trying to generate traffic, and the competition that goes on between the various reporters. It's insane. I mean, it's always insane, but right now, it's just when the team's playing bad, they really are, vampires going, for the slaughter. Like, they're going for it.
Well, and Russ and I talked a little bit about it yesterday. It was funny. Mark Bergevin on Monday after the West Coast trip, when they basically, I don't know if they mailed it in, but they were not successful on the trip, and the media asked for him to appear, and he declined. He waited until after they won a game, basically to calm the wolves.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that's great for self-preservation, but honestly, you have to come up and you have to be accountable for the team that you put together. And honestly, right now, the team that they put together is crap. Now, it may not be crap, but right now they're playing terrible.
They are, they basically have. I think, in my opinion, that they hesitated on two things that didn't hurt them, because they in retrospect, Markov and Radulov, are two players that I don't think was bad that they lost them. I honestly think that, it's fine. I'm not a huge Radulov guy, of course, and Markov, fine, you wanted too much money. But the issue wasn't that they lost them. The issue was that they wasted time losing them. Like, that they spent too much energy trying not to lose them, that they could have used in other ways. And at that point, they lost out on players that they could have had. And they should have just decided right off the bat. They should have gone to Markov and Radulov way ahead of time and said, listen, tell us one way or the other so we can know what we're doing here. But they instead wasted time on these players.
I agree with that somewhat, Eck, but I disagree in the one respect. They went out, and we can see the way he's playing in Tampa, how good of a prospect, and it was pretty universal that everybody thought Sergachev was a great prospect.
Yeah.
And they traded him for and they traded him for a very good player in Drouin, who I like, who I think is talented. But you trade for a guy and then you move him out of position. He's been a winger his entire NHL career, and there's a reason for that. And now they have him at center, and so far it's not been a great experiment to have him play at center.
I think you give it time. Durant could turn out to be a really good top line center. Right? But the problem is right now with Montreal, like you're doing that as your first. Like what you're saying is true in the fact that you don't have the ability to sit there and let Drouin develop into a first line center over the next year. Like right now, you can't do it. So
Right.
and I mean, I think the trade is perfectly even for both teams. I think it was a good trade for both teams. I think that they both.
It's not even at the moment, but I get what you're saying.
But I think Drouin is. I mean, they got their top line center. They got top line center. I mean, you can't really argue when you get a top line center.
If you look
If he's the top line center, that's still an if.
And he might.
Right,
if he can be right. So
if you look at it from the point of a team that needed offense traded defense for offense, yes, the deal made sense. But the problem was that the gaping hole up the middle for Montreal, which has been there for more than a few years, with Plekanec, becoming decrepit and old, Drouin is not. It's one thing if you can experiment with it, but with Montreal, they're throwing him into the fire and saying you're the number one guy, and that's not fair to Drouin. I really don't think it's fair to him.
Well, I don't think he looks at it as being unfair. I don't think that's an issue because he's a kid that's up for challenges. Like I don't worry about what's fair. I just say the bad thing about having to trade Sergachev is he's getting a ton of points in Tampa because of the way they play. This is also an indictment on Montreal because he wasn't doing that in Montreal. It's not like Sergachev got that much better in the week that he got traded from one team to the other.
Well,
but it's also the way they play. It's
making Montreal look really bad, Russ, because when he's got 4 goals, and I don't know, I'm not looking at the stats right now, but I think he might be the second leading goal scorer on the Canadiens if he was on there. That's pretty bad.
No, I mean that's very true, and I think it is temporarily one-sided, right? But I think that at the end of the day, I still think that it's a trade that you can't criticize yet.
No, not yet.
It's getting there. I mean, it's getting away. I mean, the real issue with Montreal is there's two problems with Montreal really that I see as a partial Canadiens fan that I am here. One is Pacioretty. I mean, number one to me is Pacioretty. I mean, he's got 2 goals and no assists.
Yeah. I mean, at least Drouin's got 7 points in 9 games. Pacioretty's got nothing.
Got 2 goals, no assists. How does Pacioretty have no assists? Like, I mean, like a player like that, that's absurd. I mean, that really, he's tied with points with Andrew Shaw. Like things like that. They're just it doesn't make any sense. And he needs to be, and and there you've got Galchenyuk also with 2 goals and also no assists. So I mean, talk about it's like how do you win games when Galchenyuk and Pacioretty don't have assists?
Well, because Galchenyuk is on the 4th line, and that's again, Claude Julien comes in last I think it was last March or February, and he has Galchenyuk at center, and he moves him from center to the wing after 2 periods. And then in the playoffs, he was playing on the 4th line. Something's wrong there. Something's got to be done. If he needs to change the scenery, they should do it. But of course, Bergevin comes out in this press conference yesterday, and he basically says, "Well, I'm not going to make a trade where I'm getting pennies on the dollar." Well, okay, great. Then watch your team go down in flames. Right now, they're going down in flames. Did we lose that?
I think we may have lost him. His picture's still there.
He may have just had to mute himself.
Yeah,
well,
they've got a problem. I mean, there's no question about it, and we'll see. I mean, right now, they should not get Shipachyov. That's not going to cure their problems.
No, that would. I mean, only if they're able to jettison. If they could do Plekanec for Shipachyov, they should do that. Because I mean, the thing is, Plekanec's contract is up at the end of this year, and Shipachyov is an extra year. But if you think he's good and you think he fits better with what you're doing than Plekanec, then you should go ahead and do the deal.
There is a little bit of breaking news. I'm just double checking it.
Go ahead.
A second. Eck just messaged and he told us to keep going. I don't think he can get back in.
Okay, so after
his computer died. He's going to try and get back. So there's no updates on Fleury, on Marc-Andre Fleury, and we believe that there's a chance that he is going to go on LTIR.
Wow, well, and it was concussion related too. So
it's concussion related.
Well, I mean, this is how desperate the situation is with goaltending when it comes to Vegas. I mean, we know that Oscar Dansk is right now the starter. Maxime Legacy is the number 2. They had to, and I don't know if it was the Leafs that initiated this or if it was Vegas that contacted the Leafs, but we know that they're sharing a minor league team in Chicago with the Blues.
Yeah.
The Leafs had 3 goaltenders. They sent Casimir Kaskisuo to Chicago, to the Chicago Wolves, to take the place of Oscar Dansk and Legacy because they're playing for the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now the funny thing was that a couple of days ago I heard Fleury was close to being back. So if all of a sudden he's being put on LTIR, that means that he's having some sort of concussion issues.
I mean, he
that
must
are
be.
recurring.
If the coach says there's no update, that's not a good thing. He was supposed to be skating around now.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I had the great
You're back.
I thought my laptop was plugged in and it said 15% power, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then it went dead all of a sudden. I apologize. My one last thought on Montreal that I wanted to throw out there was this. This is kind of my crazy number of the day, and this really shocked me. They have 21 assists on their.
That's not a lot.
21 assists for the year? Oh my God! Wow,
You know what I mean?
That's not good.
I mean, think about that number. 21 assists on the entire team. So when averagely on an average a goal, there's like 1.5 assists per goal or whatever in the NHL. That's like teams have 32 goals. Like the Penguins have 32 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto's got 40 goals. Montreal's 21 assists.
A lot of unassisted goals.
That means that anything they're getting from individual effort, and they're not playing as a team at all.
It's a lot of unassisted goals.
It's a lot of unassisted goals. And you have to start right away with obviously Pacioretty and Galchenyuk not having any assists. I mean, I was just thinking about the Flyers. Crazy thing with the Flyers is Voracek at the top of their points with no goals and 12 assists.
Right.
Stamkos
has 1 million assists too. He's got like 20.
I know he's on pace for like 160 points. So
I think he set a record for the amount of assists he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, but come on, his return wasn't going to mean much, right? I mean, Tampa.
I'm the first to say that I am shocked at how. I mean, he's not played like this for a while, and this is like incredible. And my blog for tomorrow, which I've been working on a little bit today, is are Stamkos and Kucherov the best 1-2 in the league? Right now, it's obvious they are, but are they really the best 1-2 in the league? Like, when you talk about 1-2s right now, which is a lot.
Well, I mean. They're 1-2s. I mean, if you're talking about 1-2s that play together, because Kane and Taves, they never play together. They're on 2 separate lines.
Just 1-2s on teams, because every team seems the need to have this now. Like, this is the thing: you have to have 2 stars. You can't just have one. It's like Crosby and Malkin.
Right.
It's Taves and Kane. It's it's always you always have the 2 players like that.
Not every team has that though.
Not every team has it, but the teams that have had success have generally had it, and teams are looking for it, right? So that's the crazy thing. I mean, they are just about as good. Now, I want to talk about the Flyers for a second, too, before we get out of here today. And because the goaltending situation in Philadelphia needs to be discussed. I'm sure you guys have discussed it, but I don't know how much you got into it over the last couple of days.
Well, only to reiterate my ongoing opinion of Brian Elliott being, a number 2 goalie who consistently gets number 1 chances.
Well, and I've not totally agreed with you, but I think you were right on this one. At least as of now, the thing about the Elliott that's bothering me is watching him on a consistent basis now. What is really getting to me is the fact that he just doesn't. His style is always unorthodox. I'm fine with unorthodox, but his style is just bizarre. In terms of the fact that he's giving up goals that just shouldn't happen. Like you should be able to cover things like this. It's crazy.
But here's I'll give you the devil's advocate on it. I don't disagree with you. but in the Anaheim game, he played great for 5 minutes, and his team didn't do anything to help him. And
No,
that
that's true.
defense was awful in that game.
But what is their aversion to Neuwirth right now? Is my question. Like, are they? It is interesting because when you get down to it, and I haven't been down there because of my.
I don't think there's an aversion, but I knew there was a chance he wasn't going to play even after that really good game, and I think, to be honest, he probably has been the better goalie. But I think because they've invested now in Elliott, they're giving him a little bit more chance because they're more invested in Elliott than they are in Neuwirth monetarily.
They are, but as Neuwirth, I guess, would be going tonight. I would have to imagine. Right?
I would think he is.
I mean, I haven't heard the exact specific thing, but this is.
No, actually, he is. I saw yesterday. He is.
But now, when Neuwirth has played, he's played 3 games. He's got like a 1.6 goals against average and a 960 save percentage, and he's won only one of the 3 games. His team's been shut out twice in games he's played. It's the crazy difference between the goal production that is coming. When Elliott's in goal versus Neuwirth is nuts. So it's one of those situations where he deserves a chance. I mean, he deserves a chance to take it. I get what you're saying, that you've made this investment and you don't want to hurt Neuwirth, which is the issue always, right? You're going to get Neuwirth hurt if you play him too much.
Right.
But at least I think you're at least in a 50-50 spot right now. It feels like you're there right now.
Yeah.
But right now we're not there yet.
We're not there. I mean, right now, I mean, look, they're not even there with defense. I mean, their defense is unsettled now because of injuries. So I think goaltending and defense for a while, Flyers fans are going to have to just hang in there. I think, unfortunately, I think Dave Haxtell is going to be under the gun. And really, and a lot of people are really going to question what he's doing. And it's, I get why they question it. And I also think what he's doing is hard right now.
Well, it's too if it's too early to make any kind of set decisions or evaluations on players. I mean, my opinion of Elliott, it goes back to years and years with St. Louis and Calgary last year. With Scott Darling, I'm here to take in the Carolina-Toronto game tonight. I mean, you're obviously going to give him a lot of rope because they signed him to a long-term contract, making over $4 million. But so far, 2-3-1, 2.64 goals against, save percentage under 900. This is the question. It was like with him, it was, is he the next Cam Talbot? I mean, that might just be like a once in a blue moon type of situation. I mean, he had a good year, playing a lot more minutes, playing a lot more games than he had to normally because of Corey Crawford's injury. But I watched him play against Tampa, and he at times looked really bad. Now, I'll see him tonight, and we'll see. But I'm still skeptical whether he's the number 1 goaltender or not.
I am too. Again, I was skeptical with Talbot until about midway last year, and then I said, okay, you know what? He's sort of proven it to me, but then again, this year he's not proved it to me. And this is what happens when you have these 1A guys. And Darling and Talbot were 1A guys. Even Bishop was a 1A guy in my book for a long time, and then he became a 1. And I guess he stayed a 1. But most of these guys, if you think about it, they don't stay 1s. A lot of times they slip back into that 1A category.
Yeah,
they do. And it's really hard to be just a solid 1 goalie. Like
it is. It's becoming harder. It's almost like the NFL where you want to have that main quarterback, but now everybody's sort of gearing up with a backup because of injuries and everything else. And in the NHL, they're doing a little bit more of that than they used to as far as saying who their number 1 is. They seem to like to have as many guys in there as possible, even if they have a favorite.
You're right, and and teams that have number 1s, for long periods of time, those fan bases, I've talked to them, they have no idea how lucky they are.
I mean, look at Yaroslav Halak. He was a 0 last year, and now it looks like he's the number 1.
Yeah, and that was oddly predictable because Halak has had that history of Halak is definitely a goalie that when you count him out, he plays his best hockey. There's something about that. It's like one of these goalies that Tim Thomas was the same. If you put Halak. You send him to the minors, you say he's not your starter anymore, he's going to start. You give him the starting job and say, we have all the faith in the world with you, and he's going to struggle. So it's like Halak, they've actually handled him oddly well right now to get to where they want to get to. Whether or not that, continues or not. Now, there is kind of a big story breaking right now, too, that from Forbes that is saying that Chuck Greenberg is out as a buyer of the Carolina Hurricanes, which is the team that Mike's watching there. If that's
Okay.
that's bad news.
Get the Videotron Center ready. Get it primed. Because, I mean, one of the things that I noticed watching that Tampa-Carolina game, again, it was a Tuesday night. There were a lot of people dressed up for Halloween early as red seats because there was like really in the lower bowl there was hardly anybody there. And I mean, honestly, I understand the NHL's want to stay in cities where they won Stanley Cups, but the lack of support in Carolina lately with a team that's sort of building slowly. It's really, I mean, if they go to Quebec, they go to Houston, who apparently the owner of the NBA Rockets wants to buy an NHL team.
Yeah.
They're going to sell out, or especially in bigger municipalities or Canadian markets where hockey is a religion.
Yeah, I know. I really worry about this situation right now. I think this is the first time. I think the NHL was really hanging their eggs in that basket. I really feel like
we see attendance problems. Like all the things are there. We know that.
Yeah.
Well, is Boots Del Biagio ready?
We're not going there yet. Eck, I did want to ask you, since you weren't on the other day. I did look up Mason, by the way. Mason's doing horrible to finish the goaltending situation off. He may have lost his job right now. UC Saros, Mike and I talked about this on a show you weren't on. He got an .854 save percentage. Are you willing to say now that Stanley Cup affected him?
I do think playing in the Stanley Cup final affected him in a bad way. He's still very young, so he still has a chance to recover from this. But I think in general, I will say this too: the Predators are playing at half speed as well. They are definitely when you watch them play, they're really not. They're losing games. They've lost a lot of games over time.
But Laviolette's getting very upset with them. I can see it.
Oh yeah. This is not like Laviolette is not okay. This is Laviolette's path too, because if they burned out last year playing so hard to get to where they got to,
right? And
those players mentally need to play this way probably for a couple months. The question is, can they stay in the race if they do that? That's a big thing. But Laviolette will not allow that to happen. So we're gonna have a lot of questions.
Yeah, this is a definition of a Stanley Cup hangover, really. I mean,
it really is. It is, and also the definition of when you play like the way they had to play to get to where they got to in the Stanley Cup was, balls out to the wall. It was nuts. They could not. This is not a team that could ever win a game, without doing that. So. And all the injuries and everything like that, it's tough. I mean, Saros right now but Rene hasn't looked all that awesome either. I think their defense is just they're not playing solid team defense. They're giving up a lot of pucks. They're making a lot of mistakes.
Well, I mean, the absence of Ellis, I am sure replacing Ellis, with Emelin. That's not a good replacement.
He's actually been all right, oddly enough. Like in my opinion, at least watching him, he's been okay. I mean, he's not as good as Ellis, obviously, but he's also serviceable.
Sure.
Subban's made a lot of mistakes. I feel like Subban's given up puck a ton. I think Ekholm's played pretty well. I've even seen Roman Josi giving up the puck. There's a definite struggle going on there. And all you can say is it does feel like a Stanley Cup hangover, or the hangover from having to play such a intense playoffs and everything like that to get to.
I think there's something to that, but I also think they're going to have a problem if Rene, when they're looking for the day off, if it's just a lost game putting Saros in, that means Saros is going to play like 7-8 games this year. That's it.
Yeah, and then they need him to do what he did last year, which was he helped them get into the playoffs. He played really well for them. If he doesn't do that this year, that's a problem.
Well, they still have Merrick. They still have Merrick Mazanek, and they still have who's the big goaltender that they brought back.
Oh, yeah.
That's a temporary thing. It's not that.
The guy used to play in Tampa.
I know.
But what I was really impressed with the other night was Kevin Bieksa. He's out now, unfortunately.
He played great against the Flyers.
He really looked like when you don't watch this team play all that often. All I hear about Kevin Bieksa all the time is he's lost the step. He's not the same player. He's not what he was. He was a monster in that game. Like he looked just like Pronger-esque. You know what I mean? He has this.
He basically said after the game that he felt like he had finally put it all together with these guys this year, and we were seeing that. Now it was funny the way he knocked out Gudis, and everybody's calling it a Superman punch like Roman Reigns from the WWE, but it was funny. Like I kept saying that was like a Glass Joe shot, because
Yeah.
it's like bull hitting him, and he just went down.
Come on.
Yeah, no, he hit really hard. That's for sure. The coach of the Devils has confirmed that Hischier and Bratt are staying with the Devils.
I had a feeling that they didn't want to commit, and we do have Paul Castron coming on this week on Sirius XM, and he wouldn't say whether Bratt was staying or not, but I had a feeling.
Yeah, so that's going to be that's good for them. I think the Flyers confirmed that he's staying or not.
They haven't confirmed.
Yeah,
but it does look like he's got a chance to play tonight after what happened the other day, so that's good.
That'll be good because that looked pretty bad actually. All right, so finally, I don't know how much you talked about my blog yesterday, but I do wanted to discuss with you briefly at least the concept of Connor McDavid and will he draw a heavier salary than will Austin Matthews get a bigger salary than Connor McDavid?
No, the answer is no.
No, he will not. But I don't think him taking less will have anything to do with bringing another player to Toronto unless it's a defenseman. John Tavares is not going to be an Maple Leaf.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you're etching that in stone now, Mike?
Right into the bricks, right here.
Okay. Because I can't say that that's not going to happen. So
yeah, I can't say it either. And I talked to somebody up there who really I expected to shoot this down immediately. Like I expected this certain person who is very familiar with John Tavares up there to shoot down. And he actually said, it's possible. And it was just that was off the record. It's possible.
All I know is this: if they sign John Tavares as a free agent, then they're probably trading Nazem Kadri and one of the other two, either Nylander or Marner, because they can't afford to sign
and they
Tavares.
may be willing to do that.
But yeah, why wouldn't you do that? I mean, as much as I like Nazem Kadri, it's done really well for them. I mean,
they could trade Nazem Kadri. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem, and they would get good value for him because his contract is very reasonable, and he had a good year last year and he's having a good year this year. But I think the bigger hang-up would be trading one of Marner or Nylander. I don't think that the organization wants to do that, in spite of the fact that Marner is playing on the fourth line now. I think that's just motivational stuff by Mike Babcock. I don't see it. Would I, as somebody who's an observer of the Leafs, would I enjoy it? Obviously, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think there's a better chance he goes to the Rangers than there is to the Leafs.
I used to think that. I don't know if I think that anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody I talk to say that it's the Islanders or the Leafs. That's it for him. And I think that's I don't know. I mean, the Leafs are an attractive team to play for, obviously, right now. And
I mean, here's the quick update on the Belmont situation. So the arena would be built right near the train track. The problem is that LIRR train track only runs when they have races. So now it's a part-time train track. So now that's going to take extra funding because it's not part of the normal route.
Yeah, they're going to have to have
Right.
things on now.
So this is, again, there are other built-in issues into this deal that you don't know.
It would be wonderful, however, if the Islanders played on the island and had a way to get there by train. I'll throw that out there.
Yes. Oh, no. Listen, if that became an everyday train route, I mean, some people complain because it, extends your thing a little bit, but would it help attendance? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, that would really help attendance. I mean, that's just nuts. I mean, the hardest thing about getting a National Coliseum was you couldn't take a train there ever.
Yeah.
Taking a train there was such a convoluted thing.
Yeah, you wouldn't even do it because you had to take it a town over and walk back. And you had to
find a bus or something that could take you from one. I mean, I tried one time to public transportation and it was just because that was how much I hate the Long Island Expressway, and it was ridiculous.
You couldn't do it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like a fan, but it kept me from going to a couple Islanders games because I'm like, this is just crazy. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's just nuts. All right. Well, tonight's games are on top there. Mike is, of course, ready to go in Toronto. Tonight, what do we have? We have
we talked Rangers, Coyotes. We talked about the Leafs in Carolina.
Yep. And I, for some reason, don't have the 26th up.
Hold on, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I got it right. So, yeah, this is a full set. I hate this Monday, Wednesday, like 2 games thing, and then all these. can't stand it. Like I really don't. I really wish we would have like some kind of normalcy.
I think it was more because they don't want to compete against the World Series. I mean,
Yeah.
they had a lot of.
It does have to do with that.
But it is a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday league now. You know, that's what it is basically.
Most of the time.
Sharks, Bruins. I mean, Sharks, Bruins. The Sharks are definitely playing way better on the road than they were at home.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting situation. It almost seemed like, and Kevin Kurz kind of clued me into this when I saw a report on him, that he felt like it was going to be good for the team to get away, and they're doing great. So away. Yeah. So you kind of wonder what's happening with them at home. Jets, Penguins. I'd be shocked if the Jets win that one. Let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Mason has a pretty good record against the Penguins. Thrown out there, but
Kings Canadians is a tough one. That's a tough one for Montreal at home.
And by the way, just to finish out the show, Hockey Canada released the 26-man roster for something called the Karjala Cup, which I'd never heard of before, but it's being used as a precursor for the Olympics, as an evaluation tournament for the Olympics. And Team Canada's team, it's Ben Scrivens and Justin Peters in goal. There are 4 ex-Leafs: Mason Raymond, Brandon Kozin, Matt Fratton, and Jesse Blacker. It's not exactly the 79 Canadians.
No, you knew that, though. Interesting with the Flyers-Sens game tonight, because obviously Giroux goes home. That's always a distraction. And Konechny maybe played his worst game as a Flyer the other night.
Yeah.
He's going back to an area where he's been a star. So it's hard. It's either they're going to do great or they're going to be distracted. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a really tough one to predict. And I will say, my upset of the night is Montreal will beat LA, because it's just one of those things that happens. I don't know why it is. I'm throwing it out there.
Bet your house on this, people. I'm telling you.
I'm not going to bet your house. There is a feeling. I just got that strong upset feeling on that one. We'll find out.
You got Red Wings, Lightning. I mean, the Red Wings have played better lately, but now that this is a pretty big test for them.
They always play Tampa tough. That's like
they
always play Tampa tough.
I will give you my lock of the night. My lock of the night is Anaheim over Florida, even though it's in Florida.
Yeah, it's third game in 4 nights for LA, so maybe there's a possibility. But if it's based on talent, I'll go LA.
And Montreal finally got a little.
But Mike, what do you think about my lock of the night? The Ducks over the Panthers at home.
I'm a big Ducks fan, so I'll go with it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think Edmonton will beat Dallas as well. Throw that out there. It's another tough one because Edmonton is just obviously
they need to beat Dallas. They really do.
Dallas.
Although we didn't talk about the Ben Bishop thing. We talked about it yesterday. Did you see that, where Ben Bishop basically was taken out of the game by Hitchcock?
Yeah.
But Hitchcock was funny about it in the post game. Like, he said the word slow like 4 or 5 times. Like, he was playing mind games. He was.
Oh yeah. No, Hitch will do that. You know, Hitch is the Dallas Stars we won't know what they have for another month.
Right.
Because Hitch is going to play around with them and because he thinks he believes they're good enough to make the playoffs, and I think he's going to sit there and
yeah, he wants to get more out of everybody. That's his thing.
He's going to toy with them for a while until you really see what they're doing, like as far as their lines go.
Which I don't blame him. You know what? The one thing you say about Ken Hitchcock is he expects the same thing out of a fourth liner that he does out of his stars, and he's pushing everybody right now.
Yeah, he is, and they're going to hate him for a while, and it's going to, it's typical Ken Hitchcock stuff.
Islanders Wild is an interesting game.
That is a good game, and the Islanders are playing well. So
now we know Zach Parisi's out now with a back surgery. Like this, if you ask me, I'm not sure he'll ever be the same again.
It feels like that, It
does feel that way.
Every time he comes back, you feel bad. The guy tries really hard to get back in. He has a couple of really good games. Simone Gagne in Philly for a while there, where he just would get back. He would play really well, and just when he started to play really well again, he would get hurt seriously.
Well, in a way, that's the one saving grace for Minnesota for that contract. Because remember, wasn't that one of those 14-year, $7.8 million deals? I mean, if he's injured, later on in his career and he can't play, then that just goes to long-term injury.
I think Luke Cunnin is his replacement, though. I do. I think they're lucky in that regard that they have a kid like that they could possibly put in there. We've talked a lot about the Canucks, especially Mike, and the Canucks are at home now against Washington. If Anders Nielsen's in there, man, you can't stop him.
You can't stop the Canucks. You can only hope to contain them, right?
It's crazy. The Canucks are a fun team right now. They're like New Jersey. They're just a fun team to watch, and for the time being. They're flying. I mean, but when you look at the teams that are making the playoffs right now in the West, it's just insanity. It really is.
I'm favoring the Canucks in that game. I'm not saying they're a lock, but I'm favoring them.
Yeah, you're doing that just to spite me, right?
We will see. We will see.
No, if I was just to spite you, Mike, I would bring up Joe Girardi leaving the Yankees flat, but I wouldn't. But I'm not doing that.
It was actually the other way around. The Yankees.
I don't think it was. I think that's what they're reporting. I don't believe that.
Oh, okay. We'll see.
All right. Well, thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks everybody for joining us. Remember, you can go to patreon.com/hockey and support the show. We really would appreciate that if some of you are doing that. And every days we get something out there, and it's really, really helpful. So patreon.com/hockey. Even just a couple bucks, we really would appreciate it. Enjoy the games tonight. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.